The green steel frame buggy charged up from the water toward the steep rock face, but it lost momentum, reared up, flipped backward onto its roof, and overturned right at the water's edge. A buggy sped out of the forest and launched over a sandy dirt ridge. The blue and black buggy accelerated hard and charged down into a deep dirt pit. Losing balance, the vehicle suddenly pitched straight up, flipped over, and ended up completely upside down at the bottom of the pit in a thick cloud of dust. The green buggy was climbing a steep slope when, just as it neared the top, it suddenly lost balance, reared up, flipped backward, and overturned into the bushes on the hillside. The dark blue Jeep tried to accelerate and power its way up a narrow dirt slope in the forest, but because the incline was so steep and the vehicle lost momentum, the front end suddenly shot straight up. The Jeep flipped backward in a full rollover, and then continued tumbling several more times down to the bottom of the hill, leaving the surrounding spectators in shock. The white SUV charged up the tall dirt hill, but it lost momentum and slid backward, then tipped sideways and rolled down to the bottom of the slope. A black Jeep Wrangler was accelerating hard across muddy ground, throwing up dramatic sprays of water and clouds of dust. When the vehicle made a sharp, high-speed turn, it lost balance, tipped onto one side, rolled over, and ended up upside down in the mud. The green buggy was climbing a narrow, rocky gorge when it suddenly lurched and flipped over backwards. The off-road SUV tried to accelerate up a steep, rugged rock slope in the forest. The green SUV was attempting to navigate a large, rough rock obstacle. As it crawled to the top of the rock, the vehicle lost balance, tilted to the left, and flipped over onto the sand. The green buggy was climbing the rock face when it suddenly reared up, flipped backward, and rolled several times down to the bottom of the slope, kicking up a huge cloud of dust in front of a large crowd of spectators. The orange SUV tried to accelerate hard to climb a steep dirt slope. A blue steel frame buggy was trying to accelerate and power its way across a steep dirt trench. But because the incline was so sharp and the vehicle lost traction, it suddenly reared straight up and flipped backward onto its roof. A buggy was driving across the sand dunes when it suddenly lost control and rolled over onto the dusty, sandy slope. The pastel pink SUV was climbing the rocky slope when it suddenly reared straight up at a 90-degree angle. The red buggy is climbing the cliff. The black Jeep was trying to crawl over a large boulder when it suddenly lost balance, reared straight up, and flipped backward onto its roof. A a buggy with a bare steel frame was attempting to climb a slippery, muddy dirt slope. The white Land Rover Defender tried to get through the thick pile of snow beside the road, but it lost balance. A sand-yellow buggy was speeding across the desert when it suddenly lost control on a steep turn, causing the vehicle to tip over and roll several times through a thick cloud of dust. The green SUV model was climbing the sandy slope when it suddenly flipped backward. A man wearing a white helmet rushed in, trying to catch the vehicle, but he was too late, and it tumbled several times down into the deep pit. The maroon buggy tried to launch up a tall dirt embankment, but it suddenly reared straight up, flipped backward in a full roll, and overturned into the pit. The olive green Jeep was crawling up a steep dirt embankment when it lost momentum, reared straight up, flipped backward, and ended up upside down at the bottom of the slope. The green, steel-framed buggy was attempting to accelerate up a steep, high dirt hill in the forest. Near the summit, it lost momentum and reared up at a 90-degree angle, then flipped over backwards. The silver-gray buggy was taking a turn on the sand hill when it suddenly lost control, tipped onto its side, and slid down into the sandy trench. The blue buggy pitched straight up as it launched over the dirt ridge, flipped once in midair, and then landed upside down on the ground. A modified pickup truck was speeding across the desert when its front end was suddenly thrown up into the air. The blue buggy was trying to climb over a large, rugged rock obstacle, but when the front left wheel climbed too high onto a boulder while the rear wheels lost support, the vehicle reared up vertically and flipped backward onto its roof. The blue pickup truck charged through a large muddy pit, then accelerated onto the dry ground before suddenly flipping over onto its right side. The dark blue SUV was driving along the sandy hillside when it was thrown off the edge and tumbled several times down to the bottom of the hill, sending debris flying everywhere. The black buggy tried to climb the steep rock face, but it lost momentum, reared straight up, and flipped backward. The gray off-road vehicle tried to climb a steep dirt ledge, but it suddenly reared straight up, then flipped over and landed upside down in the dirt trench, leaving the onlookers stunned. The custom buggy with red stripes and an American flag design was trying to climb a steep rock face, but because the rock wall was too steep and slippery, the vehicle reared straight up, lost momentum, then flipped backward onto its roof and rolled all the way down to the bottom of the slope. The red and black buggy cleared the obstacle and then accelerated up the steep rock face, but it lost momentum, reared straight up, and tumbled multiple times back down. The green buggy was trying to accelerate up a steep dirt slope, but just before reaching the top, it lost momentum, slid backward, and rolled several times down the slope. The black SUV was drifting at high speed when it slammed into a protective tire barrier. The black Jeep tried to charge up a slope in the forest, but it lost momentum. The wheels slipped, and then the vehicle reared up, flipped backward, and ended up upside down. The black SUV charged up the muddy slope, but then it began sliding backward uncontrollably, plunged straight into a deep roadside water ditch, and rolled onto its side. The buggy kept roaring as it powered through the large scattered rock obstacles in the forest. However, when it charged up a narrow rocky slope, one of the wheels slammed hard into a rock, causing the buggy to lose control, tip heavily onto its left side, and come to rest pressed up against the rock wall. The orange and black buggy charged up the steep slope in the forest, but it suddenly reared up, flipped backward, got stuck between two tree trunks, and ended up upside down. The orange and black buggy was trying to charge up a narrow, steep, and rocky trail. As it accelerated up the higher section of the slope, the vehicle suddenly reared straight up. The red Jeep was trying to make its way through a steep section filled with loose gravel and large obstacles. However, as it climbed onto a high rock ledge, the front left wheel was thrown upward, causing the vehicle to lose balance. The Jeep then rolled over once to the right, shattered the windshield, and ended up tipped on its side. The black SUV charged up the steep, sandy slope, but it lost momentum, slid backward, flipped onto its roof. The red buggy accelerated hard to conquer a rough dirt hill, drawing the attention of a large crowd of spectators nearby. Suddenly, the vehicle reared straight up, completely lost balance, and flipped backward in a full rollover onto its roof. But it didn't stop there. The momentum carried the buggy through one more roll before it finally came to rest upside down. The black buggy was accelerating hard as it blasted through the raceline inflatable gate. However, while taking the turn, the vehicle lost control and struck a dirt edge beside the track. The red Citroën race car was speeding down the snowy road. The blue and purple buggy charged up the steep slope, then suddenly reared straight up, tumbled several times backward, and slid all the way down to the bottom of the hill. The gray buggy accelerated up the steep, rocky slope in the forest, but as soon as it crossed a large rock ledge, it lost balance, tipped over, and flipped upside down into the pit. The green buggy blasted over the crest of the hill, launched into the air, and then tumbled several times. The steel frame buggy charged up the dirt slope, but after hitting a high ledge, the front end was thrown backward. The white buggy named Rowdy was accelerating hard up a steep dirt and rock slope. But because the incline was so extreme and the vehicle lost balance near the top, it reared up, tumbled backward multiple times, and slid all the way down to the bottom of the hill in a thick cloud of dust. The blue and black buggy charged up the slope, and the vehicle suddenly reared straight up.
That moment is finally done. Beautiful.
The black Jeep tried to get through the narrow, rocky ravine, but it lost its balance. The silver SUV was moving at a fairly high speed across the open dirt area when its front end and roof suddenly plunged nose first into a deep roadside ditch. The green UTV was climbing onto a large rock ledge. When the vehicle's front right wheel went up over the rock, it suddenly tipped hard to the left. After losing balance completely, the UTV rolled over onto its roof. The red Jeep was descending a narrow dirt slope when its wheels slipped into a deep rut, tipped over to the left, and rolled down into the bushes below. A black Jeep kept speeding through muddy pits, sending huge sprays of water everywhere. But when it tried to charge up a high embankment at the end of the mud course, the vehicle lost control, flipped onto its roof, and slid. The vehicle was accelerating hard up a tall dirt hill, but just before reaching the top, it suddenly reared up, flipped backward, and then slid all the way down to the bottom of the slope. The UTV performed continuous spinning donuts across the open dirt field in front of a watching crowd. The black pickup truck blasted over the sand dune, launched high into the air, then nosedived straight into the ground, sending a huge cloud of dust everywhere. A red buggy sped off the trail and up onto the sand dune. Because it hit the sandy ridge at high speed, the vehicle launched into the air, flipped upside down, and slammed hard into the ground. The UTV turned off the paved road onto the sandy dirt track, then sped over a small ridge, causing it to flip over and roll several times across the sand. The yellow and white UTV hit the ridge at high speed and launched off the jump. The impact sent the vehicle tumbling through multiple flips in the air and across the ground. The UTV was trying to climb a steep sand dune at night, but it lost momentum, the wheels slipped, and the vehicle rolled backward freely before tipping over onto one side. A gray SUV was attempting to cross a deep, steep ditch. Suddenly, the vehicle reared up, flipped over, and plunged violently into the ditch. The black and red off-road vehicle was speeding across the desert when it crashed into a sand dune. The high-speed bounce sent the car tumbling over several times in a thick cloud of dust. The white car sped downhill at high speed, lost control, and slammed into the dirt embankment. A gray UTV was trying to get over a high dirt ledge. As it charged up and launched over the ridge, it lost balance, pitched upward, flipped backward. The black buggy was attempting to climb a rough dirt slope, but after accelerating sharply during the ascent, it rolled several times down the hillside. The green buggy jumped over the dirt mound but landed badly, rolled over, and ended up upside down on the track.
the track.